Okay, well, this is Patrick Herbert filling in for Dr. Randall. Actually, we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, so I'm going to go ahead and host the show with our friend Dylan Charles over here from Waking Times, who is a bona fide badass, if you ask me personally. I've been a huge fan of Waking Times since I went through my own spiritual awakening. And the cool thing about this is Dylan and I have a lot in common when it comes to past lifestyles and pharmaceuticals and synchronicities even. So one of the things that I did want to talk to Dylan about on this was how he went from where he was at and what brought him to Waking Times. And, you see Waking Times everywhere. You see Waking Times on everybody's site. You go to David Icke's website, he'll have an article for Waking Times. And you go, and pretty much you'll see Waking Times anywhere. So this is especially exciting for me. So Dylan, welcome to New Enlightened Lifestyle Medicine, Dr. Randall's YouTube show without Dr. Randall. Trying to figure out where
Sweet Patrick. Yeah, thank you. That was a selection. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. So Dylan is actually, I could call you almost the architect of my coming about with and getting into the fray over here with regards to this awakening. Is that?
Yeah, we've talked a little bit. I know that you definitely share some similar past experiences in this process. And I think like the story you have and the story that I have is way more common than people even consider, but would want to believe if they even thought about it,
Yeah, that's true. That is true. All right. So, okay, let's go back to before Waking Time. So before your awakening, you were just a guy living a life, the entertain me lifestyle, as you referred to it as.
I was an awesome guy living an awesome life. Yeah. But I mean, that's, the higher we are, the farther we fall, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess what I'm really learning at this stage in my life is that I've experienced a lot more trauma and violence and, just bullshit and traumatic experiences in my childhood than I really had realized or acknowledged before. So I'm kind of coming into that awareness of all that. And so, really the revelation about it for me is that in some ways, like what I've been through is very normal, but there's also like a whole lot of people who haven't gone through like really traumatic things as a child. And so, still learning to understand all that myself. But yeah, I mean, so what's important, right? I went to American public school and graduated and got out of school and started college and realized, oh shit, like I don't really fit in here. I really like it. And fell in love, got married, and then fell into the party scene, which is pretty awesome. I was a pretty rad DJ back in the day and all of that entails, and got married at an early age and to like a beautiful, awesome girl. And then everything, I had a cool job in video games and everything seemed pretty pretty well set. I had a career path and I was climbing the ladder and, owned a house, all this kind of stuff. And then, the reality though is I wasn't happy at all. Like, I think so many people are burning up inside and just like, they're just in such inner turmoil that you can't see it on their faces all the time. But I was one of those people that was just that was losing it. And so, really to shorten this up a bit, when I had my breaking point, when I hit my end all be all, my rock bottom, my dark night of the soul, I went to my doctors for assistance, because I didn't know who else to go to. There wasn't like a village elder or a shaman in town that I could, ask him these great spiritual questions about, who am I and what do I need to be happy and why am I not happy, And so I went that route, and similar to your story, I believe, like the doctor says, oh my gosh, wow, he looks at the chart, and maybe you've seen Idiocracy. It's pretty funny, but chart interest. Yeah. This one goes up your butt, take this, but wait, no, hold on. And that girl at the desk, so she's true. Like looking, was there a baby coming out of him? Is his arm broken in half? That's the kind of feeling I got. It was like, oh, cool. You fit into this little box, and because of that, you need this particular pill. And so they try to put me on all kinds of antidepressants and antipsychotic medications and benzodiazepams and all that kind of stuff. And to be honest with you, man, as a druggie, as a person who's in that lifestyle, it's kind of like, you're just like, yay.
I know.
You view the doctor as another drug dealer, and that's really what they are. They really are drug dealers.
Uh-huh. You're so right.
So, and to the reality for me now is that it's been so long that I don't even really think about it much, but it was a huge turning point for me when I went into, I followed my doctor's advice, got some medications, had some bad reactions to those, and then went back to him. And then he referred me to a real high-powered local psychiatrist, somebody that like sits on the board of psychiatry for the county and all that kind of thing. And this real bigwig, and he wanted to put me on 7 medications a day. And I was 26 years old, and I asked him, how long am I supposed to be taking these? And he says, forever. I was like,
Forever.
dude, come on, man.
Same thing they told me.
Yeah, man, you have, to fill in the blank quiz here, you have blank imbalances, chemical imbalances, right? Like you're mechanically malfunctioning is what they essentially were saying. And turns out, Patrick, and I don't know if you've experienced this too, but like the doctor was crazier than anybody I've ever actually met. He was a mass murderer. I asked him directly to his face. I asked him what he did in Vietnam. He was a fighter bomber pilot. He bombed. I asked him how many people he killed, and he told me that he's literally said, I've killed thousands of people.
Nice. And
is sitting there in his office, just prescribing medications to people on one visit, like 7 medications. I was there for one visit, and this has been 15 years or so, and now we're learning about how difficult it is for people to get off these medications. That's not something your doctor will tell you about. Like people go through periods of depressions. Sometimes these medication helps. They help like get over the hump. They help at the moment. But people can't get off of them. People are stuck on opiates. They're addicted to, Xanaxes and Klonopins and Vicodins and Valiums and all these pharmaceutical pills. And they don't ever tell you what it takes and what the research is on how hard it is for people to get off of these things. And so as good fortune and fate was shining on me that day, I walked out of this guy's office and threw all the pills in the trash and said, I'm not doing this. And I'm glad I did it because I have had an addictive personality in the past. And had I gone that route, I can't imagine how just rough and emotionally disruptive it would have been to try to quit all that stuff. And so, again, through the blessings that I've received, I turned my attention towards Kung Fu. And that led to, to other martial arts and Qigong and Tai Chi and stuff. And those are very healing, very therapeutic, very consciousness expanding activities. And when you start to live a life that's disciplined around something that's really good for you, things just like the lotus flower opens up, life just blossoms and opens up. And that's really what was the catalyst for me to really like start to open my eyes and realize that I had the power to fix my life. And that if I was shopping around for somebody else to fix my life, I was going to pay a heavy price. There's I go to Mr. Fix It here, Mr. Fix It there. And next thing you know, I think the opiate crisis is a great example of this. Fix my pain today, and then 5 years down the road when they've exhausted all the resources for prescription OxyContin and they've turned to street heroin and they've gotten busted and arrested for purchasing that on the black market and then end up in the legal system, and then the legal system sends them into rehab. Rehab puts them into a methadone or Suboxone clinic. And then they're hooked on Suboxone, which is harder and which may allow them to function and pay taxes and work and all that stuff to a degree, but it's more addictive and more harder to quit than that first dose or the first month's worth of opiates that the doctor gives you. So luckily I didn't sink too far into that trap.
Wow. So you mentioned gaming. I'm curious because the first part of my life, I was a software developer. I used to write my own 3D engines. I was really involved in gaming, like super involved in. And the same, it's crazy because you bring up, you and I are a lot more similar than you think, because I had the same party lifestyle. I was very liberal when it came to party drugs. I was, I hope my mom and dad aren't watching. No, but, and then I got addicted to my doctors, just like you, they come in, what's wrong with you? Oh, I'm sad, or I have a problem. And they're like, okay, well, here's a questionnaire. Give this to all your friends and family and let them fill this out. And they come in and they're like, here are your drugs. Here's your prescriptions. And holy crap. Like it's awful. I got super addicted to Adderall, but, okay.
Stop. You got to talk about Adderall for a second. Okay. So I have really, man, I have a couple of different experiences on it, a couple of different threads here. One of them was the experience of getting the psychiatry to quote unquote diagnose me as ADD, ADHD. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then the other one was the misdiagnosis, false diagnosis, just bullshit diagnosis of me being depressant, depressant, psychotic, and all that kind of bullshit that they throw in your lap. I mean, I had actually had a chronic. I guess it's been the three major times I've had run-ins with this whole, like where the rubber meets the road of the pharmaceutical cartel, where there's like entry points into this like morass, this never-ending web. Like you're stuck, the spider's web of stuck in their system, you're stuck in their database, you're stuck in their, the pharmacies gotcha, and like you're stuck, your insurance, you're doing this whole thing, you're living with this dependency, this massive dependency in your life, and so really on three circumstances. One was when they tried to diagnose me, like I said, with the depression and the anxiety and stuff, and I nipped that in the bud just by getting exercise at Kung Fu. Gone. 3 weeks, totally gone. They said I was going to be on that stuff for a lifetime. The other one was when I wanted to go back to college, and just with my lifestyle and stuff and the overall health and condition of my body and mind as a young American, I was like, okay, well, my friends say you can get this stuff called Ritalin to help you study. So I'll just go to my psychiatrist and tell him I have ADD and see if he'll give it to me. And this is quite a while back, and it took a whole lot more effort than it would take today to get prescribed Ritalin. But I was able to go into the office and be like, yo, I have these symptoms. And he'd be like, oh, wow, do you have trouble concentrating? I'd be like, oh yeah, absolutely. And basically like you just look at what the pharmaceutical insert says and you go, oh yeah, I have that. Oh yeah, I have that. Meds. I have that. Yeah, I got that. And so I was able to get fun Ritalin. So for like a party guy, it's actually kind of some fun stuff. And then a few years later, I went back for something else and was able to get Adderall. And Adderall is literally like when I sat down and the pharmacist prescribed, or the psychiatrist prescribed me Adderall, I was playing dumb and I was like, oh, what is this? And the guy literally says to me, well, this is like street speed, but it's legal. Okay. He's like, it's high grade. He literally said that, and it's like the most absurd thing to tell a 18-year-old guy, dude. Oh, okay. So that was the other one, and it's like that stuff, like literally I think a lot of people that get that stuff, I mean, there's a lot of pressure in this society to be productive, to be like overachieving, to be like above and beyond what is like average.
Well, my bosses loved me because I would sit there for 60 something hours straight programming. Yeah. I was like chugging down 12 packs of Coke,
Mountain Dew and Coke and Red Bull,
yeah. Monsters, and that was my morning regimen. Would be to drive on my way to work.
Yeah, so
get my nicotine, get my Monster, so I could wash down my Adderall with it, get started for the day. You know what I mean? Slam down.
It's funny. I actually had that conversation with my 12-year-old just yesterday. We were talking about different things and smoking versus alcohol and this and that. He was very observant and was asking me about some things and so I had to explain to him that some things are okay and some things are not okay. And, like who determines what's okay and what's not okay and why it's okay and when it's not okay.
I got it. Dr. Randall's actually here. I'm going to bring him into the conversation because he would love this. We've already started recording and I already did your introduction, but we'll keep this organic like this. This will be a lot of fun. Right now, let me bring you up to speed on the conversation. We're talking about the pharmaceutical lifestyle, the pill for an ill, except it's not for, Dylan and I. It wasn't necessarily a pill for an ill. It was going in there. It was, suitable for our lifestyles at the time. It was going in there and saying, hey, doc, I've got every symptom related to attention deficit. And, and that's all you need to say to these people. And then they just whip out the prescription. They already come in with the prescription pad. That's what I've experienced.
Samples and free samples.
Oh, yeah. They love that. Yeah. And then they write that out. They're like, okay, yeah, great. And man, I used to take, I'll go ahead and admit, when it came to my Adderall prescription, I would be out of it like in like a week or like 2 weeks. I would.
Stuff is super addictive, man.
And then you just walk right back in, and then you're like, hey, yeah, my dog ate my prescription. Actually, I think I used that excuse once.
He's now dead.
So I said he knocked it over. He stole the bottle, and all the pills got dirty. So that's the ugly reality of addiction is that because you need your fix. And especially when it came to Adderall, man, if you didn't have it, you would be, at least for me, I wouldn't be able to get out of bed without it. So
unleashes like rage and terror. I mean,
oh yeah.
Getting off Adderall is just like getting off methamphetamines. I mean, it's horrible. It is horrible. It's horrible.
It was tough. Okay, Dylan. So, all right. So you got this lifestyle. You're going in this direction. Everything is, you're hyper addicted. So you had that moment where you took the 7 prescriptions, you threw them out and you wanted a big change. So take us from that moment to, I know you had some, you had some really cool, some of the stuff I've heard in your podcast, some of your experiences with like trekking through the jungles of the Amazon and like, for the ayahuasca, and I know I said that wrong, ceremony.
Totally wrong, yeah. Totally wrong.
Ayahuasca, I think is the right way.
Ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca. So tell us about that.
Ayahuasca. Yeah, I mean, so I think like really like the fundamental shift for me was the decision to take matters into my own hands, to find the empowerment necessary to control and take charge of my own health and wellness, mental health, physical health. And then when you do that, you find out real quickly that your body starts to support healthy mind. And then your body and your mind together start to work to support a healthy spiritual disposition. And that's when things like the depression and you just wake up one day and you're going about your business and you realize that they don't really affect you anymore because your body, the dynamics of your body are working together in such a way that you're becoming like an activated, actuated being. And so when you take charge like that, like all kind of cool things open up. You'll find the right books will come to you. You'll find the right people will introduce into your life. You'll all of a sudden you'll have the inspiration to try something totally new, and that'll lead you to a person that you never, that your soulmate, whatever, and those paths of synchronicity, like those little just like nudges to help you along through the universe and make your life blissful are right there if you really start to put that discipline and take charge of your own being, right? And so, after all the drama with all the like I said, like the rubs against the narrow escapes from the web of the pharmaceutical matrix is kind of one way I like to look at that. There's that scene in Lord of the Rings when Frodo's down there with the spider, and they get him, right? They get him, they sting him, they stun him, and then they wrap him up. And it takes Samwise like an incredible amount of effort to free him again. I mean, that's the perfect metaphor for what it really is. And so, like I said, like that, moving through that, life starts to open up. And one of the things that came to me was the experience of ayahuasca. And my wife and I had decided to move to Costa Rica in 2009. I had been up to that point working in the video game industry as a sound designer. So you did games. I did sound for games and voice acting and all that kind of stuff. And so we decided to make a big life change and take kids down to Costa Rica. And originally had planned to kind of move around a bit, but we were just instantly fell in love with it. And so we stayed there. And through that experience, a couple of like what I would say like the shamanic plant medicine path made itself available to me and it sort of invited me on that path. And that's been like truly one of the tremendous, like most sacred honors of my life is to be able to experience that medicine, ayahuasca, or as we call it, yahe. And so I've had the privilege of experiencing that with traditional elders from the Amazon on many, many occasions, and then also visiting them many, many occasions in Costa Rica, but then also visiting them in their village, and then also journeying with them to their sacred ancestral lands in Ecuador, the border of Ecuador and Peru, up close to Colombia, northern Ecuador. And so moving from that web of the matrix web into a totally different healing paradigm, right? Like you're talking about, you're walking through the rainforest with, 3 or 4 generations of members of a tribe, from great grandfather down to like young men. And they know every single plant. Tell you they'll walk a few feet, look at a plant or a tree or a bush and tell you this plant, if you take the leaves off this and do this with them, it'll cure somebody of this, or it'll cure somebody's whatever. The next plant, oh yeah, we use the stem or the bark of this. And you realize there's a whole pharmacopoeia. And that's really the Amazon is where many of the concepts for modern pharmaceuticals came from. But what you realize is there's a whole different paradigm other than like getting somebody dependent on a product that costs a lot of money. Instead of turning them loose in the world. The other dynamic is to actually try to achieve true holistic healing, physical, mental, and spiritual healing through the possibility of connecting with plants, and then also with like a cosmic energy that sort of invades and permeates all awesome things and living things. And so that's been a big part of that's what really like excites me and what I've been a big part of over the last 10 years or so. And another part of that is the African shamanic medicine of Boga. So
yes, I remember you wrote
a lot.
You did an article on that, didn't you? Or fairly recently, Boga, right?
Yeah, I did write something recently. The elder shaman of the lineage that I'm blessed to be part of is a man by the name of Muginda Michaela. He's a 10th generation Bwiti shaman from Western Equatorial Africa in a little country called Gabon. And he moved to the West in the early 2000s and ended up setting up a clinic in Costa Rica, and where he healed thousands and thousands of people. Thousands of people with, just like spiritual, personal problems, but also a whole lot of opiate addicts, heroin addicts, drug addicts, cocaine addicts. So like that medicine he used to heal Western addicts and really like do a lot of work with cleaning up the Western spirit. He's now back in Africa. And so I work with one of his direct students sometimes in Costa Rica when I can go down and participate in a facility, like a wellness facility down there, where we have a team of people that facilitate ceremonial, an opportunity to ceremonially connect with the African medicine in Boga. And it's amazing what it can do in just like a week. It's amazing the kind of transformations people can go through. So yeah, it's not something that your doctor will tell you about.
Oh, no, of course not. And I'm completely, because whenever I learned that about you, the first thing that popped in my mind was Dr. Richard Strassman, I believe his name. And Richard
Strassman, he's the spirit molecule man.
Yeah, exactly. And because I got into that like in around 2012, 2013 maybe. And I watched. You got into this that you got into like doing DMT, or you got into DMT. Well, and reading about it, learning about it, and not at the time. Because I was always fascinated, like, and this was before my awakening. But I was always fascinated in esoteric stuff, and I was always fascinated in like Robert Moreau out of body experiences. And someone was like, "Hey, you should try this DMT. It causes an out of body experience." And I'm like, "Ooh, that sounds cool," So I'm like, I get it. And of course, it's not natural. It's not the natural kind. But I did have some really interesting experiences, and I decided to buy Strassman's book, read about it, and then I watched a documentary where they, all those guys traveled down through the Amazon, went on the river, and then they met with the shaman, and then they, they're just like you were describing. He's taking them along, showing this plant does this plant does this plant does this. So I was picturing that whenever I was learning about your story. I was like, man, that's so cool, because it's just like that stuff I read. Yeah, my experience wasn't as spiritual, because, like I said, I wasn't awakened. I was still in that. I was also still on Adderall at the time, and but I did have some really formidable, or some really not formidable, but really interesting experiences on it. And one of those was the geometric shapes and patterns started to emerge all around me in like three-dimensional things, and they resembled Mayan shapes, and they were moving. And like the cool thing about it was I was like looking at it, and it was all maintained in perspective, which, being a 3D software engineer, 3D graphics engine software engineer at least, I thought was remarkable, because I was like, how in the world is this, like these shapes would come out of tile, and they would move, and they would be these intricate geometric patterns that would be moving in sync with each other, that had depth and everything. And so anyways, okay.
What did that, I'm just curious, like, what did that do for you? Cause there's, what did that do for you other than just like blow your level of fascination wide open?
Well,
were there any lasting benefits?
From that experience, not really. There wasn't any eye-opening thing like that. Sure. I was different mentally, because I had 3 lung surgeries, and I almost died after the second lung surgery, and they had to do an emergency third one. I had this I think this was a side effect from too much Adderall, because Adderall causes hypertension. It causes vasoconstriction. It causes all sorts of things. And I was a chain smoker at the time. I don't smoke anymore or do anything. Yeah, I know. I was a mess. As Dr. Randall knows, I was a royal mess, functional royal mess though. But
hallelujah, man. Glad you're doing well today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. Now I'm here to be able to interview. So I had emphysema bulla without the emphysema. But the thing was, I had them all over my lungs. So they had to cut out, like, not to get all gross and detailed or anything like that, but they had to. It was a tricky situation for surgeons, because they had never seen it that bad. Oh. But anyways, so yeah, I made it through. But after the third surgery, after the what I could call a near-death experience, not one where I left my body. I did have an out-of-body experience in the hospital where my etheric body came out, and I started to observe it in this high state of awareness. But my arm, and it was all like transparent and blue and stuff like that. And,
wow.
And then after the terrifying fear from the second surgery and bleeding all night, and I had to have a blood transfusion in the morning after the emergency third surgery.
Jesus.
My mental state from the post-traumatic stress was different. So the whole world was different following that for years until and this was when I had that DMT experience. So it didn't.
All this is going on, and then you smoke DMT. Wow,
Yeah. I mean, like I just
bold move.
I was trying to make sense of everything that was happening to me at the time because I was, I'm full steam ahead. I just, finished up my 20s. I'm getting into my 30s. I met the woman of my dreams, and then boom, all this comes to a complete crashing thing. But that's everything that happened to me that set me on the path to doing what I'm doing now. And our interaction and us meeting, which I'm so grateful to you, Dylan, by the way, and Dr. Randall too. If it weren't for me just continually harassing you over certain things, I wouldn't have my site already. Well, I did have my site when I was sending you my articles and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like it's gone. The amount of viewership I get now is just crazy. So it's just awesome. And I would say, I credit you with that. All right, so back to you instead of me talking about me. And I know Dr. Randall will enjoy a lot of these, a lot of this. And the Dr. Randall, I'm going to go ahead and bring you into the conversation. You are very familiar with the, when it comes to, like Dr. Randall says, like, food is medicine, natural medicines, all these kind of things. And what happens when we take pharmaceuticals and stuff like that. So Dr. Randall, what are your thoughts on our conversation so far with Dylan? And you want to keep it rolling for a little bit? Let's get your input here.
Thanks for getting Dylan on, and that's a story in itself for me. And then I think why the reason why I'm late onto the call because I was outside in the sun trying to get my vitamin D fix and all, and I'm thinking, what do I name the show? Because you finally got Dylan on. And I go, what the hell do you name the show? Because I always wanted to get this guy on. And, and from what we're talking about, because I like listening to folks and I like learning and I just like the energy, just like, it's like hanging around you, Patrick, you're high energy. And it's synchronicity and destiny. Okay. And then a few years ago, Deepak Chopra came up with a book called Single Destiny, which I've read many times. And I listened to Dylan here. And, some guy wanted to get on the show all this time. And, he mentions, the Amazon, he mentions, just awakening himself. He mentions, the things with addictions and what grips you and, life change. And what he did was, instead of just thinking about it, he did something about it. Nothing happens unless you take action. And so he goes, okay, family, we're heading, to... somewhere south. Well, where are you going? Well, south. A place where you think about when you watch National Geographic. So we're going to go there. Oh, okay. And then in my journey, which kind of lines up is that I wanted to know about shamanism. So I did research and I got a shaman onto the show, Sandra Ingerman.
Yeah, Sandra Ingerman. Yeah, that's right.
You see, and then I said, well, how do I know what you know? He says, well, you already know it. Like, what do you mean? Look, you studied all this while. Why don't you start just using it and, just go trust in yourself? I go, okay, that's fine, but I want to be a good shaman. and she says, well, no, eventually you'll find one. And, why don't you head south? I go, oh, okay. And then so, well, Dylan, that's what you did. And so, things like that. And then when you mention ayahuasca, I already know what that is because I had researched a guy named Graham Hancock. And what he did, he wrote some books and all that, but he was the one that alerted the world, especially the archaeological world, that, evolution development is not linear. So, he wrote on Göbekli Tepe and, off of Turkey. And he goes, this is an advanced culture here, and it does not follow a linear timeline. Of course, he's been rejected by all the archaeologists out there because we, like any system, we all follow the meme. This is the way it is. It cannot be anything else. And so, he's done ayahuasca, a few times. He goes, the type of creativity and things you undergo is unimaginable. And it's kind of depending on your state at the time.
Your inner world, especially, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You see, I'm glad you brought that up. It can take you down bad roads or good ones, depending, what your state is. And so he goes, you don't know until you start doing it. And, a lot of times you're in the throes of it, but it reminds you of where you are currently. So, I just thought that, well, I'd like to actually go try that, once. And where do you get that stuff, So, and then, I'm in the process of all this, I said, I should like a radio show. I don't know how to do that. And I got introduced to, Bob Charles. And, he says, hey, you want a show? What kind of show? I don't know. Well, who do you want in? I don't know. What do you want to talk about? I don't know. Personal development. I want to help people get unstuck. I want to help people to, get rid of their old programming. I want to help people to live the life that they would most love to live. And from there, it became more succinct, educate, inspire, and empower in helping people live their greatest lives and highest expression. And then I came across something called Waking Times. And I was reading all these articles. I go, God, this is so wonderful. And of course, this is me. And I look everything up. Okay, is this person bull, or where does all this information?
Fake news.
Yeah.
No way. Not Waking Times, man. I will defend Waking Times to the death. I love Waking Times.
No,
we're on the list. We're on the list.
So
oh, well, that's all BS, as we know, though.
And then and so I look things up, and then I'm using my now that I can't see, I use a screen reader called JAWS, and it's pretty good, but it doesn't let you read everything. And so I somehow got that Waking Times. I got on the on the list and the newsletter, and then I noticed your name, which didn't mean anything to me at the time. But I found this article, Bankruptcy of America.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't tell you this. That's why I was all excited thinking. That's why I'm late. I read through it. I said, God, this is so professionally written. There's so much information here. But I didn't read all the way down to find your name. But my thing is, just kind of to let you know how I think, is I've got a poor rote memory. And so I said, I got to reread this because I want to know all these facts, because I want to reuse it to appear smart to people. Okay. And so I let it go, and then also the owner of Pyramid One, Bob Charles, sends me the same article. Read this. You're gonna like it. I go. I've read it. So I said, okay. Let me read it again. So I read through it, and I read past it. And I found out the writer's name, the author's name, Patrick Herbert. And then after that, in that line that's supposed to describe himself, it's something like he went through an enlightenment and awakening. I go, oh, now I'm actually interested. So I find a contact number and an email, and I wrote, and he actually wrote back, because a lot of the folks that I write to never write back. Mm. And he wrote back, and I go, wow, would you be interested in being on the show as a guest? And he goes, oh, yeah. And then we're talking, all this time, and he's the co-host of our YouTube show, New Enlightened Lifestyle Medicine, and many versions of that has been going on since 2014. But with him on, with this type of input, I think it's the energy that there's more larger audience, more subscribers, and people are tuning in, and they know about it just thanks to the internet and all that. And then then I asked him, hey, boy, I was trying to get a hold of this guy Dylan Charles. Do you know anything about this guy? Or he goes, oh, I know him well. Really? Oh, well, he doesn't respond to me. Can you reach out to him to see if he wants to get on the show? Because he's a fascinating guy, and I want to know more about him. And I guess the long-winded, this rant getting here is that, since I guess my birth is that if I had done or chosen differently of anything, we probably wouldn't be here. And I
Well, yeah, no, it totally was. And I just got to, because Dylan had to step away for a second. I just wanted to fill him in real quick. What you might have missed was he was, it was through Waking Times that Dr. Randall and I got in touch with each other.
Yeah.
And then,
I heard that. He said he found that article about the financial situation. Yeah, it's a zoo over here, man. I tell you, with the COVID-19 stuff, like, here's the new normal in my house is 3 kids running around with a chihuahua and another dog, and my wife trying to work her professional job, and people knocking on the door and all that kind of stuff. So, it's quite a scene over here.
No, don't worry about it. I just wanted to, I noticed you had taken off your headphones. I don't know if you caught what Dr. Randall was saying. He was basically describing how, he met me through Waking Times, and then you were the topic of discussion. They're like, Dylan, okay, got it. Do you know Dylan? I would go back and forth with Dylan. Dylan's been, publishing some of my articles or blogs, articles, whatever. Yes. Go ahead,
Patrick.
Yeah,
I'm still hung up on some things that you said about DMT. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, which is it's such a fascinating thing for me, because what Dr. Strassman did was, like Dr. Rick Strassman did was, he presented a case to the scientific community, right? And you're talking about like a world that has been going more and more into this rigid materialistic worldview that discounts anything spiritual, that discounts anything that's beyond that thin, narrow bandwidth of perception of our, even our visual, even the spectrum of light that's visible to human beings, So,
right.
So what Dr. Strassman did was he basically was able to break into these people's heads and suggest the idea that there is like something much bigger out there, and it's right on the edge of science. And maybe if we look a little closer, we can find it. And, just like with anything though, like people can abuse these substances, and like what you were describing, your experience with DMT, it sounds like the timing was not right, and it wasn't used in a way that really was beneficial to you.
See, I'll be honest. Let me go ahead and be straight up. Okay, I was on a lot of Adderall at the time. At that time, I got off Zoloft and the antidepressants, and I was just sticking with Adderall. My mental state was a lot different following the surgeries, and I was smoking a lot of marijuana. So what I did, I had the chemical substance, and I just sprinkled it on a bowl. And just smoke. So it was, I wasn't, and setting is everything. And I'm, it was like, my experience was not the way that it's supposed to go. That was the first time I did it. It was like that. And I like the
Has Dr. Randall ever experienced anything like this?
Dr. Randall, you ever done DMT?
No.
Ayahuasca or anything like that?
No. So I wanted to, try the ayahuasca. No, I want to try more things because it's
that's kind of the cool point about Rick Strassman, is he sort of like bridged the gap. He sort of found a path of understanding between people who had looked at it intellectually versus people who had looked at it experientially.
No,
which I think is super cool.
Strassman was awesome.
That's my growth too, because I'm listening to you guys. And before the accident in a bullet that they had, that caused the blindness, right? That you think, wow,
Sorry, what you said? A bullet to the head?
Yeah, he got shot.
That's why I'm blind.
I haven't met you. I didn't know that you were blind.
First, I mean, he could tell the story, obviously, but I'm always so blown away. He had a branch go through his head, the first incident, and then like 3-4 years later, someone shot him in the head, and he lost his other eye. So the first, go ahead, Dr. Randall, you could tell me that story.
No, that's just, I never even think about that much anymore, but I should be dead. So that's why,
interesting.
To me, Patrick, and to have you onto the show is, it's one of like those kind of blessings, or why it should be, and why I thought no one knew the word synchronicity until I met Patrick, because I use it all the time. And of course, my family's okay, enough, and but it's because of that, and one, I should be dead, and or really brain damaged, but I'm not. And so, when I was talking about, you might have stepped away, looking into shamanism.
Yeah, I heard that.
And getting, a radio show and things like that. I said, well, I said, then I'm talking to myself, what do you like doing? I said, I like helping people out. So many people are just stuck. They're just stuck.
Yeah, for sure.
Rigid, and they don't want to learn. And I said, all that pre-programming comes from somewhere. I said, well, how do you change programming? How do you get people to live their greatest lives and be open? And so, the part before that is that, if it's some kind of like a chemical stimulant or chemical, substance that helps you, put you in another world, I said, wow, that's so weak. Oh man, you do it yourself. You don't need other stuff like that, right? And so I'm learning, and reading. And, I mean, Patrick and you and doing my reading and things like that. Then I hear the Graham Hancock stuff, and, it kind of parallels yours. And I go, wow, okay. And so, there's so much creativity that goes on with these naturally occurring, things out there, which are plants, which, a lot of like you were saying, a lot of the pharmaceutical industry is trying to copy. And if they can patent it, it's theirs, right? And so that's why they're pissed about marijuana. Because they would so love to patent that stuff.
Yeah, they're going to make it synthetic marijuana, and you know it, and they're going to hijack it.
And, but the thing is, like you both were saying, unless it's in those specific amounts that nature puts out, it's not the same. It's not the same. So they're trying to copy that, but it's like, oh, you copy nature, but both of you are living it. So I'm so open to that kind of stuff now, because it's okay. Like the people are not perfect. I think God is, and so why is all this? And how can we use it? And you've got anecdotally, people that have been for tens of thousands of years using all these natural substances to cure, to heal, both physically, mentally, and sometimes to open up people spiritually. And that's healing also. But anyway, that's my kind of long rant of things, because that's part of my growth too. Because even a few years back when I was like, oh, come on, use your own creativity, use your own imagination. You don't need something, fake and phony like some kind of plant to help you. Okay, but it works. It
does. It opens your eyes to things.
It's not only just physically medicinal, but it's emotionally medicinal, mentally medicinal, and it helps your spirit grow, because it's something that you never experienced. And I always wonder, why did God put it here except for to be used? So anyway, go ahead.
Okay. Oh yeah. So back to you, Dylan. I want to know. Okay. So sorry, I didn't mean to startle you there. Waking times. So yeah. Where did what made you, did it start off as like your own personal blog, and then it just evolved into kind of like what it is today? What's the backstory in Waking Times?
Well, I was like really personally involved with alternative information since probably the late 90s, early 2000s. And so being from Austin, Texas, a lot of that was Alex Jones.
Oh, you're from Austin?
Yeah.
I'm in Houston right now.
Yeah, I know. Oh man, I was in Texas a couple weeks ago, man. It's hot out there already. Anyways.
Yeah. Totally.
But yeah, I lived in Austin for 32 years. That's my hometown. And so I was back there when Alex Jones was on like network, cable access. And there was also a lot of pirate radio stations in the area at the time. So you could get all kinds of different, there was like the Republic Broadcasting Network. It was at GCN. All these people were putting up pirate towers all over the place. I'm pretty sure the FCC's cracked enough heads that it's not as widespread. But now we have the internet. Mm-hmm. And so I was basically like listening to all this information and starting to awaken my own discernment and awaken my own ability to intuitively know when I was hearing the truth or not. And so by the time that I had moved out of the country in 2009, I was looking for other opportunities, and just like another major synchronicity in the little town that I lived in Costa Rica, I found 3 other expat American gringos that had built a company and a website called activistpost.com. And I know you've heard about it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the 3 guys, like as this weird cosmic coincidence, is the 3 guys that set up that website happen to live on this. We just all happen to end up living on the same street in the hills of Costa Rica together, within a couple of miles apart, which is pretty crazy. And because I had that in common with them, like I knew all of this stuff that they were talking about. I knew about the Federal Reserve. I knew about, the creature from Jekyll Island. Mm-hmm. I knew about even like all of the, Anthony Sutton stuff with the funding of World War I and the funding of World War II through, Henry Ford and all these like crazy schemes that American businessmen had put together for, 100 plus years in order to keep us involved in conflict and wars. And so we were able to communicate about this kind of stuff. And they had the knowledge and skill set of how to get a website built, a platform up online, how to monetize that so you can actually make it worth your while to do. And so I worked with them for a little bit. realized that my path was starting to take more of a turn towards my own like personal development, my own spiritual awakening. And I was starting to see more in other people, how other people were ready for that kind of change in their life as well. And so through their help, I set up Waking Times, and it was really what was my own project, but kind of was brought into fruition from those guys, super cool guys. And so, that was in 2011 when I started it, and just basically sat down and said, I'm going to work on this every day until we're successful. And like I said, like another one of the great blessings in my life, I was able to be successful with it. And I think I've helped a lot of people. So I do a podcast as well. And I was talking with one of our old writers, Christina Sarich, and you may have heard of her, but she's written thousands of articles on all kinds of conspiracy stuff and everything over the last like 10, 12 years. And her take is very similar to mine, that, we sort of feel like we've done we've already given this issue enough attention. We've already done our work in helping to bring these issues to light. And so, not that we're stepping down or stepping aside, but we don't feel the same sense of urgency and the same call to action as we used to, because there is a lot of people carrying the torch of alternative news and media and moving on. So it's a really interesting time to be watching people waking up, and so yeah, I feel like I've been part of that, and it's cool to see.
You have been. You've been a big part of it. And that's what, that's one of the reasons I want to drag you on. Not only because, having, been going back and forth with you and email and stuff like that, and you giving me the opportunity that you've given me. I have had a lot of my Waking Times was a huge alternative window for me. I already knew about Alex Jones. I already knew about something, but there was just something that drew me to Waking Times like crazy. And I can go back to like what I'd fanatically research things. I'd be reading every book I could get my hands on, printing out every.
Here's what I think it might have been, man. So I was talking with my wife and some other friends about this kind of thing recently. Just recently, I was talking about this, and I wonder if like at some point people start to realize that the picture that's being crafted and that's painting of reality, that's being painted by mainstream news, that's being painted by Hollywood.
The worldview narrative, as I call it. Yeah.
Right. That, like the picture that's being painted by the music industry, the picture that's being, painted by the fashion industry, the picture of reality that's being painted by, like CNN, Terror News Network, and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. It's so very rarely, it's like almost never jibes with what a person, like individual reality, like it's so rare that you turn on the news and then you turn off the news and you have the same experience. Mm-hmm. And so I wonder if there's like I wonder if what really like gives my work value is that it maybe possibly turned people's attention away from that story, still in line with that message of awakening truth and moving forward into a better possibility, but just resonated with them because they were like, oh, I am having these experiences. I am actually experiencing depression. I am actually like going through addiction, or I'm actually going through the realization that my childhood trauma is fucking up my so I think that was that. I think that was a big part of the thing that one of the things I take most pride and honor in is like kind of tying those two things together. Like, yeah, the world is fucked, but where does the rubber meet the road? And it's different for everyone, but it always is going to meet the road inside of themselves, like inside their own perception of reality, inside their own, like the quality and character and the vibration of their heart energy, So that's where people need to look. I feel strongly that after doing this for as long as I have that's where people need to look for change first, because if you're not able to sit and just like wade through this world and go out into a new normal COVID-19 world and try to figure out, is it discrimination if they refuse me coffee because I don't wear a mask and it's not legally required for me to make wear a mask? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is a whole confusing, insane.
No, you're right.
Insane, all of this stuff is going on out there. And like, if you can't just if you can't laugh most of it off, like you're churning energy, like you're
oh yeah, you're going to lower your own vibes.
Burning your own fuel, man, So.
I wrote everything you're saying, and it's funny because I learned a lot from authors like Joseph Murphy, who wrote, his name is Joseph
Murphy, the Subconscious Mind.
Yeah. Subconscious Mind guy. Yeah. And, I learned.
Excellent. That was one of my favorites.
Oh my God. That's why I have that on. I give that to everybody. That's a good Dr. one, Randall. That's the book I got for Lamar, and I shipped it over to him. The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Yeah. No, Joseph Murphy's awesome. and some other things like that. So I wrote an article that was inspired by that called "Life is a Perception of Life." And it was basically that, yeah, it is from us. Where else is it going to come from? It all comes from our own inside. It's the way that we like, and it's so easy. And I talk about this a lot because it's, if you've got an inner world that is churning around and about on all sorts of negative things, well, everything you look at is going to be negative and nasty and dirty. But if you've got, your inner world's all harmonious and positive and stuff like that, then the world it's okay. It doesn't even matter what's going on out there. It's like, and I kind of laugh about the stuff, and I see, especially when it comes to the masks, and I got, if I'm going to have to wear a mandatory mask, I got one made that says fake pandemic on the front, just things to maybe make people think or something like that. So, but yeah, I totally.
Infowars.com.
No, there is the Infowars.com one, isn't there? Oh,
I'm good. Sure of it. Yeah, I'm sure that guy's on everything.
No, he's got one. Yeah.
The ball, yeah.
It'd be kind of weird for me to put like patrickherbert.org or something to try to sell those. Yeah. I don't think anybody's going to go for that.
I saw one that was like, it was like this new space age polymer plastic material that you could see through. So it's like, you can actually see somebody's mouth through the N95 rated microfilaments. Oh my God.
Oh, really? Dr. Randall was like, what did you say, Dr. Randall? He said, get a hockey mask because it's a mask. They're wearing my mask.
I just don't know if people are smiling at me or not.
Freddy Krueger one. That'd be great. I saw some other like weird, like people wearing like KKK hoods in the grocery store. Saw an article about that. Did you see that one? I was like, okay, well, I think I'm sure that guy was probably trying to rile everybody up. Okay. All right. Before I get distracted too much, I guess we're kind of, how much time do you got, Dylan? Do you want to wrap this up real soon or?
Yeah, if you got something cool you want to say to wrap it up, man, we can go in that direction. I've got to be honest with you, man, I was rear-ended last week and totaled my awesome family van. So I'm like in between all these conversations with insurance adjusters and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I understand completely. I don't want to keep you too long. So, all right. So where is Waking Times, where are you going? Where are you headed? Because okay, so we know you've got established. You feel like you've completed. You feel like you've gotten a lot of stuff done. You feel like you've put in your time. Are you just kind of like living your life now and just keeping up with the site, or?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, like it's been, my position is that of a family man. I got 3 kids, teenagers, and like we're riding it. I mean, that's like the most expensive place to be. I mean, I've heard that my generation has like the most expensive burden on them compared to any previous generation ever. So yeah, I mean, there's the incentive. We have to work and make money. And the thing about it is that what I found is, I personally have had a hard time navigating the change in tone of what people are following and what people are interested in. And, like when I got started in 2011, like there was a lot of information about, people were interested in these spiritual concepts, these esoteric concepts that they just had never, ever seen before. Nobody ever heard of sacred geometry or, the flower of life, and nobody ever heard anybody try to explain why when you look at the flower of life, you just feel sort of peaceful and connected. There's these archetypal imprints of these, mathematical patterns that permeate the universe and reveal themselves in the golden mean and all these mathematical principles, this very just beautiful divine order to everything. Like people were like, oh wow, this is going on all around me. Of course, like I need to know more. And I think when people really started man, my gut feeling tells me that it inspired a lot of people, but very few people were able to actually like take it and run with it and really like develop the discipline around these ways of being in their lives. And so then you throw in a mix, 2016, the Trump election, and just like the what that did energetically to the world. I mean, it's like this spin from that. I feel like we're still spinning from that. And so I personally got quite discouraged around the 2016 time because like the economic pressure started to change. Like, businesses like mine, we've invested lots of time and energy and manpower and money into developing our social media presences and YouTube presences, only to have those just ripped out right from under this. And this started back in 2017 for me when YouTube, just nuked my channel. So I ever had interviews with David Icke, Astron, Edgar
they get rid of you, huh? They
I was one of the first ones. They just, I have no idea why, but they just cut me off of YouTube. So, I started to realize that there were all these, like the forces were against what I was trying to do. And it's just it's a weird feeling to realize that like not welcome.
It is weird.
And so I think like that sort of gave me a sense of discouragement, and it was really, really, really powerful thing for me to learn. And so for the last few years, honest to God, for the last few years, I've been sort of in a tailspin with it, and doing my best to keep it alive, but also really seeking inspiration. And I think with so much going on right now, I'm really starting to come back into the the intuitive feeling that, okay, we're back on track. People are now back recentered in themselves again after all that's going on with the COVID. They're paying attention. They're paying attention again. Whereas the 2016 up through now, it's really spun their attention way out onto all of these external things. And so I think people are really starting to look again. And so that freaking inspires me. And so the conversations I've been having with people who weren't woke and who are now waking up, I'm okay. There's a lot to be, there's a lot to consider here as we go forward. So there's a lot of people to reach still. So in that regard, I'm inspired. And I think for me personally, my passion, my bliss, Joseph Campbell says, follow your bliss, is really with shamanic plant medicines, with both the African tradition and the South American tradition. Mm-hmm. And so I think I'm seeking my way back into back into a way of life where I can do that more often. And I think that's going to allow me to really just connect more face to face with people. So while the blogging and the website waking, I always get a lot of joy out of actually meeting and spending time with people at these retreats face to face and listening, looking someone in the eyes and listening to what they're going through and offering counsel and helping to facilitate these sacred ceremonies. So that's ultimately where I would like to be. But right now it's all Bill Gates. Right now.
Oh yeah, no, he's yeah. Where's my picture I always hold up whenever somebody brings up Bill Gates? I don't have it with me.
Gates of Hell boy.
Him with the vaccine. I like to hold it up whenever someone starts talking about Bill Gates.
Gates of Hell boy is taking over.
No, we know all about this. That's what Dr. Randall's is for. Dr. Randall knows a lot about vaccinations and all the details of this and that and about Bill Gates. So we've been we've been tearing it up, trying to get out as much information as we can against this poor, helpless philanthropist who just wants to help people with all of his billions of dollars. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My assistance is mandatory.
Okay. Here's my mandatory help.
Yeah.
Oh well, thank you, Dylan.
Before we go, Dylan, I'm just listening to you. I know that in all of our lives, economics play a part. How about you? Kind of maybe thinking about this and in akin to what's pulling at your heart is put all this in different type of programs that people can follow, that you can lead either with retreats or online, because if folks
I'll sign up.
Because people like the ABCs. If you do these 5 things in this order, and then with all your experiences, you share that, this plant does this, and, your certain being does this, and, when you have this certain feeling, maybe that's, some kind of spiritual awareness indicating, this. But, what I see with this COVID thing, and especially with this George Floyd thing kind of colliding, is that these massive opportunities here, because, once you have some big challenges, that creates the biggest change. So I think for a guy like you, with all this experience and where your heart is, and with all you've researched, just like Patrick is, an awesome researcher, why not put that into a program where we can follow it, and you charge whatever appropriate amount there is, but people are desperate for follow this. Okay, not let your heart do the whatever the dialing and all that. But if you follow this program, okay, this will get you this. And so people we all want to be not so much be led, but we all want to learn. If there was a sequence, a program that I think that you already know what that is. Line them up, follow these sort of things, follow these 5, and call it the way you want it. It's a way for you to make an income. Plus, get you more out there to those kind of people, because we're all desperate for something. We want to make a change, and some of this financial. What you do will give them ideas. Well, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do this and monetize that. So anyway, that's kind of what I get from you is that you've mastered, your waking times with your friends and your buddies and all that. So you've mastered a lot of part of the internet. But I think you're a teacher. I think that you can turn this kind of philosophy and all this knowledge into programs. Because, I research things and all that. But if I said, follow these 5 things, I go, really? What do I get out of these 5 things? Oh, well, you become a shaman, or, you become this or that.
Grand wizard.
Because, you go to, professional school to become,
You get plus 10 experience points.
Stuff like that, because you want to end up someplace. So, goals do matter, because without a goal, you don't know where you're going. And so I think you'd be an awesome teacher, because look at all what you've accumulated through all these years.
He's also a talented writer, too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you say,
I appreciate that, man. That's
and you can teach people that, because they say, well, I want to write like Patrick Herbert, but where do I get all these skills from? I can teach you how. So anyway, it's just an idea, because you've got a lot of talent to share, and you can monetize that, and then still be happy, because yes, teenagers in this day and age, that they need stuff. Unlike before, with me back when, there's only dial-up telephone. Right, and if you want to get someone a message, you send them a letter in the mail. But there's no. I just learned about texting the other month, thanks to Patrick. I said, "Wow, well, what a dumb idea!"
Turned him into a text maniac. I sent an iPhone over, and
because it's so impersonal. I want to hear someone's voice. I want to just text them something. How stupid, right? I go, well,
oh, you love it. You love it.
Well, I do now, thanks to you. But Dylan, you've got so many gifts to share, and I think you can monetize it, so it satisfies a lot of needs. And because a lot of people would know, like what we're talking about on this show, is that they want to know you, and that they want to know, well, he does what he loves, and he makes a living at it. How can I do that? You can teach that.
And you already got the audience, too. You do. You really do.
Yeah, you see. So anyway, with that audience, they're sticking with you because they like your stuff, and then as you grow, they grow. Okay, and then for all of us here, it's like, I want to do what he does, but how do I make a living, from this? And then you know how to do that, and you can teach it, and you can charge for it. So anyway, that's the idea. It's just a gift, to the world, and I say go share it, while you're still living, because we all end up having the same kind of thing, right? We're going to die soon. And that could be tomorrow, or it could be 7 years from now. We don't know. But between that time, you can share all your gifts with the world, monetize it, and then you can show them how to monetize it, and they can pass on this information that all comes from you, and that's a legacy that you leave without you even knowing it, and then not knowing where people get this stuff from. Because they call it the Puritan work ethic and all that. So, well, yeah, okay, possibly. But there's other people that work that hard too, and now we call it the American dream. And who experiences the American dream? Well, Patrick, he tried doing that; it almost killed him. Okay, so it's kind of fun up until a while, and say, oh, now I did it, and now I'm really sick, so I get to spend all my millions getting my health back. Wow, what the hell is that? So I think you've got so much things to share, and then nothing wrong with charging for it, it's because you want to give to other people what they love doing, that they can do that and somehow make a living, because we do have to make a living, unless you want to be in a cardboard box on the corner, things like that. So anyway, you've got so much to share, and I would say, do that, because, you are a gift, and you go share your gift.
Hey, I'll contribute. If you ever need any contributors for anything, Dylan,
share your gift.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you saying that, Dr. Randall. I think I needed to hear that more than I myself or you probably knew. So thank you.
No, that's great. And, we're all kind of doing the same things, and with all our growth and all that, and like say you're not in your 20s anymore, and with all this knowledge you've accumulated, you could either be selfish with it, or you could be really angry about it, okay, or pissed off at the world. But how the world looks is how your insides, looks, first.
Amen to that, for sure.
You got to change your inside before you can change the outside.
For sure.
If you're pissed off or angry or, just judgmental in there, like, hey, I want Trump to die and all that, he does a lot of good stuff. Then he's a human being, and, he's been taught certain things. Like Patrick and I talked about that before, with his dad, the one family question was, are you a killer or are you a loser? I said, well, I don't want to be a loser, so that means I'm a killer. Well, this is what you have to do. You got to walk all over everyone, and you
programs, man.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Programs.
You see how you are a teacher of personal development. So I don't know. I think with all that share it and then monetize it like all those folks are doing. From the most popular one, famous one is Tony Robbins, but there's also Jack Canfield, Mary Morrissey, Bob Proctor, Jim Rohn that's not living anymore, Earl Nightingale, and all starting with Napoleon Hill. You're right in that procession line.
I think he's got it in for sure. I know, Dylan. I don't want to keep you any longer. I know you gotta take off. So if you wanted to say anything real quick, or it's completely up to you. But I really just want to thank you for coming on, letting us chit chat.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you're welcome, and thank you, Dr. Randall. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Like, life is good if you let it be. So, anytime I could be of service, either one of y'all, man, please let me know.
And same for us. Love to get involved. All right, brother. I will. We'll be in touch. Take care. Man.